Hello everybody, Proto Foxy coming back at you with another video, keeping the nostalgia train rolling. We are going to talk about, now I had talked about in a previous video, what is considered probably the best mold of the Unicron Trilogy. And now we are going to talk about what is widely considered the worst in some people's opinions. There have been many a video talking about this mold and about how poorly it was received and how bad it is. But as you can see, I liked it so much I had to have it multiple times. And my whole experience with Transformers is that I love the oddities as much as I love the well-regarded stuff. And I actually, when this released, I actually bought it and enjoyed it day one for all its ridiculous quirks. But we are looking at today what is the Armada Side Swipe mold. And again, the character was really goofy and not well received in the show. The toy itself, and we'll get into it, with transformations, was not well received at all. But I, for whatever reason, because I like oddities, I liked, the Side Swipe mold. And not just because I am a Side Swipe fanboy here, but I think it looks cool, and it actually hits a note that really resonates with me as far as being a robot in disguise, because this, with the exception of this one here, and we'll talk about that when we get to it, this is a basic sedan type car. I know some people would take cars like this and tune them out back in the early 2000s. That's what they were, Fast and Furious kind of stuff. You're taking more of your basic kind of cars and tuning them out and whatever. And that's kind of what they would do, stuff like this. I believe this is actually an approximation of a Nissan Skyline, if I can recall correctly. But the Armada Side Swipe mold, very heavily disliked when it was released. But for me, I liked it. And unfortunately here, this makes me sad because this was in storage and this is painted on translucent plastic and got some scuffs there, bound to happen. But we got Side Swipe here, and then we have Universe Oil Slick was released with, I believe, Crystal Widow in the Universe Battle in the Box, which was a 2-pack of figures, Autobot and Decepticon. Oil Slick and Crystal Widow, I don't know if it was Walmart exclusive or if it was mass retail. The only one of that set that was mass retail. I talked about it in my previous video. When we come to this next one, which is Tread Shot, that came packed with Universe Ultra Magnus in the Battle in the Box. But I believe that was like Kohl's or Kmart was that where that set was exclusive too. So that was a bit harder to get a hold of. But I think this one was more widely available. And, you have a purple Decepticon repaint, and then you have a maroon repaint. Now this one here is more just of a straight redeco. I mean, you get the retooled Decepticon symbol here on the hood. Otherwise, all the deco beats. Oh, you don't have the Autobot symbols on the front fenders here, so you don't get you have the Autobot symbols on the front fenders. Talk goodly do I yes to, but you don't have the Decepticon ones here, and I think that actually look cool. But all the other same deco beats are the same. You got Transformers running across the front of the windshield. Otherwise, everything is incredibly similar. It's just the purple as opposed to blue. And here's something that was that's a rarity these days, is that you get painted taillights. So we missed that. But yeah, this I like that, purple silver deco, and it's got some black when it gets into robot mode. But this one here, Tread Shot, more maroon, different color deco. We still get the repainted taillights, or we get the painted taillights rather, excuse me, but those are in black. And then we get some different deco beats. We got a Decepticon symbol tampographed here. We got his name tampographed across the hood. We've got the off-center racing stripe, stuff like that. And then, of course, unpainted hubs. So now it's black. Again, the whole fitting in with the tuner thing. And then what was probably my favorite release, and I won't go too hard into it here because I'm going to do a separate video talking about the the group that this figure came from particularly was Cybertron Runamuck, which actually Runabout was the black sports car for Generation 1, but you know, they didn't have the rights to the name, so he became Runamuck. But we got this deco here, some retooling obviously to accept the Cyberplanet key. I'll show you the gimmick when we get there, that's why it's just kind of set in there. But you know, different decking, and it's definitely retooled. But again, I really kind of just like the decos and the tooling, and for whatever reason, because I'm not even a big fan of like that whole import tuner car culture or anything like that. I always thought it was silly. If you're gonna, you know, soup up any kind of cars, I'm more of the classic muscle car kind of guy, which I have another video coming up on a muscle car transformer that I'm very excited to talk about. You know, being on the nostalgia train, it's also part of the Unicron Trilogy. But you know, I never got into that whole import car tuning culture, but these just looked cool, and it makes sense because this was the popular thing to do at the time, and it was a basic looking car. So you have your basic looking car, robots in disguise, this is the perfect disguise. But anywho, let's get into some of the gimmicks, and because this is a very gimmick heavy toy, and this is, again, I mentioned in the Bendy Prime mold video that Armada, you know, the Unicron Trilogy itself went back more to basic, you know, basic designs and all, more for gimmick playability and everything like that, and he was loaded with gimmicks. His Minicon stored, which is really cool when you think about it, his Minicon stored in his vehicle mode, so you can tuck it away, but it flipped out, and his Minicon comes out, and his Minicon, now that's a cool looking motorcycle. The robot mode on this toy, though, is absolutely abysmal. This is awful. This I actually, again, normally I like odd stuff, but this is just awful. I don't like this at all. He stays in his motorcycle mode. Normally I like motorcycle transformers, but that's something. That is definitely something. So we're just going to go ahead and put him back into his motorcycle mode. But you know, even in the show for Armada, it shows him, you know, bouncing off of here, and then what we have here for the next gimmick is you press down on that, and see, this is a bit older, so he doesn't come out. It's supposed to mimic a dragster, so this is spring-loaded, and then it releases these, and it comes out the front end. It extends the car's front end, and it was meant on the show to be more of like a power boost, you know, dragster type thing, and it just extends the length of the car, and it looks goofy. Was never a fan of that gimmick, but it's there, and that's what we got. So let's get into robot mode and see why this is all so very, very derided. And I will say this, because you all know, you've seen enough of my videos to know that I'm nervous about translucent plastic, but the plastic on this actually is pretty substantial. I'm not worried about this cracking, breaking, anything like that. So got that, and we're almost done already, so we're going to see some quick transformations, and I'm going to talk about decos and stuff like that. But you'll see why, again, why this toy, I can see the arguments of it being derided. But here we have Side Swipe in robot mode, and okay, that doesn't lock down. But we take a look, you know, articulate, and that's actually ratcheted, so that's interesting, because I don't believe that's the gimmick arm. But, you know, he's ball jointed elbows, but they only go so far, because, again, you got kibble and stuff like that. This one, I believe, is a gimmick. Yeah, that's the gimmick arm. But, yeah, just a toy hampered by its gimmicks. No usable leg articulation to really speak of. I mean, he can go all the way back and go all the way forward. No knees. I mean, he can kind of do that, I guess. But, you know, he's got big bits of kibble hanging off the side. And what I'd like to do when I had him out, I just put his legs together because he's basically a brick anyway. But, you know, he's odd, he's strange, he's kind of doofy looking. He's got big kibble bits hanging off the side of him, but I like them. I don't know why, and it's not just because I'm a side swipe guy, because this really doesn't hit side swipe beats. Really, if you want to hit side swipe beats from Armada, you go with Wheeljack or the Japanese version, which was Rampage. But all the gimmicks are present. The fenders will spring off and extend, which just looks incredibly goofy if I can get it to do it. I don't know if it'll do it. Yep. Yeah, it just looks incredibly goofy. It extends his arms. There's no real use to it. So I just leave him. Minicon goes on his back and does similar to Armada Prime, where it is supposed to be a punch, and see, boom, it just raises his arm up, so he's raising his hand. I mean, you could maybe call it an uppercut, but yeah, I can see why this toy is definitely derided, and a lot of people didn't like it, and you know, the character wasn't all well regarded in the show either, but for whatever reason, yeah, I liked it. I really liked the mold. You know, I can't tell you why, because he's definitely weird. Objectively, he's not good. I just think, I think maybe I like the way it looks, and the whole beat with him being a robot in disguise turning into a regular ass car. Maybe that works for me, but all the gimmicks again are present on every version of, or every deco of this mold. And as you can see, he's got Minicon ports on his non-usable shins, or not. Yeah, I say non-usable shins because shins are articulated. Non-usable knee, or his shins, but yeah, on his knees. And now the one thing I didn't show off, because with side swipe, which I will show off on the rest of them, because on the other two that are just straight up redecos of side swipe, because for whatever reason I could not find his weapon. Okay, come on. We're not, what? It's, yeah, see, and again, very substantial plastic, holds up, which is pretty wild. But we're gonna just go ahead and get all this stuff out and undone. But yeah, like, one thing about this I will say is I'm not worried about this toy breaking. Everything is very, very substantial. Even the translucent plastic, and this is over, this toy itself, or the mold itself, is over 20 years old. So it's definitely gonna hold up. But you know, it's big, chunky, thick plastic. But as you can see here, he's got his other accessory, which is his weapon. And again, I didn't show it on the side swipe version because I couldn't find it. It's in a bin somewhere. It's missing, or not missing, but like misplaced. I just, for whatever reason, couldn't find it. But whatever, we'll see it here. But you know, he can hold, because they are ported for both. So he's got a little knife there and a little handgun, and so you can see he's got a little almost kunai looking knife, and then he's got his little handgun. But damn it. Okay, those springs, and he actually has a bit more dust, because I think I had him displayed for a while, but he's got a bit more dust on him I need to clean off, so I apologize for the dust. But that actually combines, so it even has like a little bayonet on the, it's a little bayonet pistol, and it works. And please stay on there. Why did I, no, it's coming out of the port. Ugh. Okay. Ooh, I just noticed that is that a stress crack? Yep, I believe that is a stress crack, maybe. Not entirely sure. I believe it might be a stress crack, but, you know, hey, 20-year-old toy. Yep, it's gonna come off, isn't it? As I'm yammering on about it. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, maybe not. But anyway, so, and that is oil, Universe Oil Slick. And again, I like that deco, but this deco here, I actually really think is interesting, just because of all the stuff that it hits there. And again, transforms the same way, all gimmicks are the same, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to go ahead and just get through all that, you know, same hideaway weapon gimmick. And that one fell out. Now let's see. I don't know, it's just the way it's molded, because check that out. Look at that. We're discovering things together here, everybody. But yeah, it's the same way on this one, too. So I wonder if it's just the way the mold itself is for the weapon. I mean, because here, let's get... We'll leave them like that for the moment. Because it's actually, for being translucent plastic, that is pretty solid. But again, as I'm yammering on and transforming stuff and newly discovering things on 20-year-old toys, you know, again, we can see why this was derided. But again, I dug it. I don't know why. Still don't know why. Because everything in me says that this is actually kind of awful. But maybe it's just because it's so awful that I dig it. Who knows? Who cares? You like what you like. Don't be a... You know, like what you like, don't be a dick. You know, so everybody enjoys different things and whatever. I can appreciate why. Oh, that's how that stays in place. Okay, so that's why he was shifting around. All right. I can understand why people did not like this toy. But again, you know, it's different strokes for different folks. And I dig it. I dig it. I don't know why. Because by all rights, I shouldn't. But again, you like what you like. Who cares? But here we come to the different one here. This was released in Cybertron. Again, I'm going to do a video talking about the group that this came out of, so I'm not going to get into it much here. But this is retooled. Obviously, the pressure plate, you know, the spring-loaded pressure plate is now replaced with the cyber key. So we get that gimmick that pops it forward, as opposed to Minicon. And here, we don't get the motorcycle Minicon, but we actually get his handheld weapon, which looks like an additional like exhaust booster type deal, which is pretty neat. And then when we get into transformation here, we'll get to see where exactly the other places were that were retooled. And for this one is probably my favorite version of the mold, this retool here. And again, plastic doesn't feel like it's going to snap. And, you know, the translucent stuff is obviously the roof assemblies and where the door and the windshields are, because everything else, it's actually solid plastic, so that's not translucent there. Get him transformed. Come on. And I cut my nails too short, so that's why I'm not digging my nails into any of this stuff, because it hurts when you cut your nails too short and then you separate stuff. But anyway, as we get him, and again, I always just tab that back together because the legs are pretty much useless anyway. Come on, tab in there, we go. And again, Minicon ports on the shins. And then we got, otherwise, with the exception of the retooling bits that we get here, he does have all the same gimmicks as, you know, the other versions of the mold. So, springs. Everything still works the way it's supposed to, though. You know, springs aren't like worn down and loose. But see, and then we get difference here. You know, retooled head. We got the engine block here. Otherwise, everything else is the same. This doesn't activate the Minicon gimmick, but you can take a Cybertron Minicon and just activate it, because obviously Minicon ports with action features had the little press in before you could activate the spring. But this just works as his handheld weapon, which I kind of like the look of that. That looks really cool, like a big old double-barreled blaster. And then you can actually, because obviously now you're not popping the front half of the car out for the gimmick. It just stores right there. And this deco is probably the retooling and the redeco. This is my favorite. And again, objectively, it is an awful, awful mold, but I love it. It's so weird. It's just so weird. It's endearing, and I like it. And I got it multiple times. Obviously, went out of my way to get it. And like I said, we're going to talk about him in another video, about where he came from. But all in all, that's that. The Armada Side Swipe mold, one of the most derided, disliked, for, you know, multiple reasons, rightfully so. But I also feel like he gets a lot of undeserved hate as a toy because, again, these were designed with gimmicks and gimmick playability in mind, and he did what he was supposed to do. I mean, everything he did it the way it was done. It's the engineering and design. I mean, for whatever reason, yeah, he's got wide hips, but for me, he was fun. He was worth the money, the repeated buys, because these two here were available in 2-packs. These two here were available singly, and again, we'll talk about that one more. But I enjoyed it. I mean, your mileage may vary, your opinions may differ, but that's the joy of having opinions, because opinions can differ and we can discuss them and just be appreciative of everybody's opinion. But I like this one, and I wanted to talk about this one because I think it's an interesting footnote in Transformers history that one of the most disliked toys from the Unicron Trilogy got so many releases, so there's that. All that being said, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, give a like my way. If you liked it, shoot a subscribe my way. I'd greatly appreciate it. We're just going to keep the nostalgia train rolling because I'm feeling nostalgic about older toys, so that's what we're going to talk about. And I will leave you all with this: be kind to yourself and fellow human beings, because life is too short. So play on, and I will see you in the next video. Show my boy some love.